All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live, Everything School HQ, Knoxville, Tennessee, where JP's Florida Atlantic Owls cannot hurt me anymore. Time has passed. Wounds have healed. JP of SB Nation is here. JP, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, we went owl the way. Shout out to Field Apparel. Had to wear it today. It was just pure coincidence. But I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Well, there you go. Hey, and they're running it back. A lot of dudes are returning, so you might be able to make it back. Just don't play Tennessee in the tournament next year. That'd be great. Did not have a fun time. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. I'm out. Also here, 49er subs, Evan Sowards, who is willing and able to talk all things San Francisco 49er quarterback battle. It's one of his favorite things to relitigate during this offseason as to what is the future for Brock Purdy. Are we sure that Kirk Cousins doesn't make sense this offseason? All of these things you can tweet at Evan Sowards at Evan Sowards on Twitter. He is more than happy to engage in that level of discourse.
Speaking of swords, JP, could I borrow your katana so I can stab myself in the throat?
Absolutely. Which one?
Yes.
What an answer. Which one? To a katana to stab myself? Which one? There you go. Speaking of, for the good folks on youtube.com, you can see JP Acosta's new digs behind him. He's got it filled out. You got the books, you got the sword, you got the DVD.
I love how even when you're actually saying the word swords, you can't pronounce it.
What did I say?
Swords. It's a soft W, just like in my name, you asshole. How can you not get it right with the actual word? It's the literal word. It's not even a name.
But you also switch them. Swords and swords. It's a weird. It's tough to say.
It's not. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. You've had 30 years to figure it out.
You just ignore the W.
We've gone over it on this exact podcast a dozen times. And even when you have visual aid, you still couldn't figure out how to pronounce it. There's no sweet dear Lord, Chase. Figure it out.
Look, you just gotta imagine that W is like an X on the highway. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Acknowledge it.
It's not there.
It's not even there.
Yeah, your name's really SORDS. Swords.
Whatever you need, dog. Like, whatever you need. Because clearly, visual aid, verbal assault, nothing gets through to you. I love how he's like, oh, okay, so it's just like SORD. Okay, swords, huh? Okay, we'll figure this out. Next time, guaranteed. Shall we continue?
I don't know what to do.
Shall we continue?
I can't
believe it. I can't believe it. Actually, the actual plural of swords. He couldn't get it. It wasn't even just, it was my last name. It wasn't like, oh, I just don't know how to pronounce Evan's last name. He just physically can't say swords.
I feel like when he says swords, now he's got me thinking about it. I feel like when he says swords, you know how the lightsaber sound effect?
Yeah.
Swords.
Yeah, that is. Now I'm never going to be able to unhear that. Like, I'm finishing up Kenobi on Disney Plus this week, and now I'm just going to hear swords when that comes out. That's going to be amazing. Well, we're back. That was a good just refresher into the dynamic here on this very program. Don't forget, folks, you can check us out on Apple, Spotify, where you get your podcast. If you are an Apple or Spotify listener, make sure you leave this show a 5-star rating review. Every Monday night, Evan and JP and I will be talking all things NFL on this very program. Subscribe on the YouTube page. And if you're watching on YouTube, A, hey. And B, make sure you like and subscribe this video. Full episodes up on the channel with clips and shorts and all that kind of good stuff. As well, you can email us, as always, at chasethomaspodcast@gmail.com. Evan, was there any 49ers news in the last week? I didn't find there wasn't really much going on with your team this week.
Yeah,
did you have anything you want to share?
I don't know if it's anything needed to share. Obviously, I thought that it was interesting. I will say shout out to Peter Schrager, Good Morning Football, who did have recently the interview about the S2 cognition test, which we made some jokes about on Twitter last week. The S2 cognition test, I guess, is like the next. What is the original like football test that they did?
Let me look it up just to make sure.
No, it was like the
the Wonderlic.
The Wonderlic, the Limerick, the Heimlich. Yeah, the Wonderlic.
So this is the new version of the Wonderlic.
Yeah, but so the test came out a while back. I saw it on Niners in the Niners Twitter sphere. People were talking about it almost like last year, but it got rehashed because Peter Schrager did an interview with the person who created the test. And the big reason why it was big in the 49ers world was that Brock Purdy was like one of, if not the highest scorers of this test entirely last year. And so I was kind of just making, it just like brought up again, and everyone was talking about, Trey Lance scored well, but Brock Purdy scored even better. And I jokingly was like, if, the next person to say S2 cognition test, I'm going to pistol whip. Like I'm making a joke about the movie Super Troopers, right? Just like it was just a fun thing to say. Little do I forget that Peter Schrager follows me on Twitter. And so he was like, hey, yeah, I didn't realize that that interview was going to get so big. I was like, dog, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. That was hilarious. I was joking. But
Evan's never going to have a Twitter account for very long. Like it's always going to get resuspended, and we're going to go through Evan Sowards 3, Evan Sowards 4, Evan Sowards.
Sowards, you son of a bitch. Just back to back, plural for each sword. Oh, God. What kind of education do they have in the state of Tennessee? You just graduated. Like, what did they like a Cracker Jack degree? You like go to like University of Phoenix Online? Swear to God. You bring great shame to your family. Oh.
I'm glad Acosta's JP. Wait, is it Acosta or Acosta?
Acosta? You're trolling. You're trolling. Acosta?
No, do you know the reason I was going to say Acosta? I have my Costa sunglasses, and you never know. Like, I say Costa a lot. So I was saying Costa sunglasses, and it just Acosta.
Do we know for a fact that that's how you actually pronounce that brand? Because I've never heard of that in my life.
I say Costa.
Costa?
I'm pretty sure it's Costa.
How do you spell it?
Costa.
I can see it being Costa. If it's
Costa. No. Have I been saying it wrong forever? Is it Costa?
It's Costa del Mar.
Yeah.
Not Costa.
I've always said Costas. Are they not Costa? Is it Costa?
Well, if we're saying Costa del Mar, could be talking about the coast.
I mean, is it Costa? Well, that's, Well, we got to figure this out. The podcast, people listening to this, figure it out.
This is really embarrassing for me. The first 8 minutes of this podcast is not gonna be good for me.
It's a hilarious stinker right now going on. Like the young waiters, I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 30. You're going on 0 for 30 right now, brother.
Thankfully, there's no other guest popping in.
I think you got it right. I think you got it right.
Okay.
When you're in the concept, But now, going back to it, JP's last name is Acosta.
Yeah.
Acosta.
Not Acosta.
No. Not Acosta. Oh, God. It hurts.
But there is Acosta. But do you see what I'm saying?
Costa del Mar.
English is hard. Many are saying pronunciations. Like, I would honestly think, look, if you don't have a phonetic aspect to every word that you write down, then I might mess it up. Like, maybe that's what we need to do for this very podcast, Evan, is y'all need to just put in the private chat the phonetic endings of both of your last names, and maybe that's how we break this.
Or we could just talk about it every other podcast like we've done for the last 12 years.
I'm so bad at this, and it's not intentional. It's like a brain malfunction, and I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do.
So nothing going on in 49ers land other than that, and what was it, Chris Conley they just signed today?
Wide receiver out of Georgia? Is that who that is? He's bounced around a little bit.
Jaguar legend, Chris Conley.
Yeah, Jaguar legend. He got signed as I don't know, maybe a camp backup.
So nothing really going on in San Francisco. What about in Jacksonville, JP? Anything new?
Nope, not really. All quiet on the Jaguar front. outside of the Buda Baker trade request and being like, oh, the Jags should get him, which they should. Outside of that, nothing much. Just getting ready for the draft. And this time, it doesn't feel like we absolutely need to hit on a pick to save my sanity. It's kind of new.
It's also just weird to think about. Like, you guys go Trayvon Walker at 1, right? Like a huge surprise there. Kind of moves up the draft boards with his just what he did at the combine and his just everything about him, where he was like a theoretical upside because he didn't have the tape at Georgia that was like, oh, clearly slam dunk guy. And then the following year, Georgia has a player, slam dunk, best tape in the draft, best player by far in the draft by most folks. He's not going anywhere near 1. It's just kind of funny a year removed how like silly all this whole process is that like Trayvon Walker is just completely comes out of nowhere, doesn't have anywhere close to the college tape that Jalen Carter has. And I understand there are off-field differences and stuff like that, but like it's just how crazy this sport is sometimes, and just sports in general, that like he went number 1 and we moved on, and then it's like, but he was a hugely contested number 1 overall at the defensive tackle, edge, whatever you want to play him guy, because that was the whole thing with him, is you could play him in multiple ways on the Jaguars defensive line. But then you look at Jalen Carter and it's just like everyone's like, well, obviously he's the best player in the draft, and obviously and you're like, well, he's not going to go anywhere near the first overall pick, and you're like, oh, this is just a weird sport. I understand the quarterback class is better, but still, it is kind of funny to think about because a year removed, or if you flip it, like Jalen Carter is probably the pick, right? Or do you think he's not a Trent Baalke guy? Like his skill set is a little bit different than Trayvon, that they wouldn't have done that. Like, what happens if they have the number 1 pick? Do you think they go Jalen Carter?
Their skill set is absolutely different because Trayvon Walker is more of an outside guy who can play on the inside. Jalen Carter is predominantly defensive tackle, inside guy. If we're assuming that this team remains the exact same personnel-wise, they just have the number 1 pick now. Honestly, I think they trade back, like most realistic, but it'd be hard pressed to not pick a guy like Jalen Carter, especially because the Jaguars' needs are right along the interior of the defensive line. He fits that need perfectly. He has the arm length, he has the height, weight that Trent Baalke loves in defensive players, especially on the defensive line. He comes from Georgia. He's a Kirby Smart guy. Off-field concerns are there and are valid, but I think it'd either be Jalen Carter or they trade back. But like you were saying, the NFL draft is very weird. It's like a choose your own adventure or like a D&D game where you just roll, and sometimes you're going to roll a nat 20 and get like the best player in the draft class and a Hall of Famer. Or you're going to roll and get Luke Jokel. You never know.
Tough.
It could be a Vic Burley. It could be, or not Vic Burley. Wait, is that right? Vic Burley? No.
Beasley.
Vic Beasley. There's a Vic Burley who just came out, 5-star edge from South Georgia, who's now in Clemson, and Tennessee was in. So there's a Vic Burley, and now there was a Vic Beasley Jr., and then
last names are just getting your ass today.
Well, hold on. I also just wrote and did something on Vic Burley. Like, that's not fair because there was a Vic Burley and a Vic Beasley right after each other.
I mean, it is your NFL football team that you've been a fan of and covering for 1,200 years.
I cover everything, and they don't call me the sports renaissance man for nothing, Evan. Like, I got to keep up with a lot of names, a lot of people. Like, it's
like Vic Burley.
Vic Burley, Vic Beasley, and also same state, so it's easy. Speaking of the Falcons, though, Bud Dupree is weirdly a Falcon now. I didn't think that was going to happen because usually when guys meet free agents, that is, meet with a team like in their building, that's like a precursor to them signing. And Bud Dupree was in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago and was already a Pittsburgh Steeler at one point, and then there was a need, and then he doesn't end up being signed. And like on the flip side, Calais Campbell was in the building in Atlanta, and then he left with a contract. Like, that was just part of it. Usually when they go in there, by and large, they're gonna sign. Suddenly there's just like talent and depth on this Falcons defense. Like Mike Hughes, you trade for Jeff Okudah last week. Terry Fontenot has been quite busy this offseason, and I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say, with how much they've added, especially on defense. Like, I'm not certain where they go now because I think they can go edge still. I would still lean edge at number 8. There is some buzz with Bijan Robinson. I really hope that's not what they end up doing. But you can go corner with Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter. I don't like they have options, but suddenly they have linebacker depth. They suddenly have secondary depth. They suddenly have edge depth. They suddenly have some guys that I'm like, I feel pretty okay. And I'm going into this year, I'm ready to get hurt again, guys. Like, I think the Falcons should be considered the favorites in the NFC South. Like, I think the Bucs are going to stink. I think the Saints are going to stink. And the Panthers are going to be playing a rookie quarterback most of the year. I don't see how the Falcons, I can't believe I'm saying this in April and it's going to hurt me, but like, I think we're at the point now, there's no excuse for the Falcons not to host a playoff game next year. I don't think there's an excuse.
There's a very valid excuse.
What is that?
It's Desmond Ridder.
No, hold on. Oh, Desmond Ridder, the older Trevor Lawrence is what many were saying.
I don't understand why you're so excited about Desmond Ridder.
See, you're already mistaking it. Many are saying there's a lot of crossover between the two of them.
You've been watching all of these quarterbacks that have come out in the draft the last 4 years. There's nothing exciting happening in these middle rounds.
Can I also say I would like just put a pencil in this one. I don't think it happens yet. But if like they're gonna give it to Dez, the Cardinals haven't hit that yet. They haven't hit that moment. But if they trade D-Hop, Buda Baker's moved, Cardinals have a new regime in place. There's already just some friction with the Kyler. I would not be surprised at all if the Falcons get in the Kyler Murray sweepstakes if that were to happen. Like, I could see them going down that. He's already under contract, so it's not like you have to start from scratch in negotiations, that sort of thing. He's younger than Lamar. I would not be surprised if Kyler Murray is like the next guy. That being said, Trey Lance and what happens there, the QB job, obviously, also on the table. I'm not certain Dez is still considered the long-term guy, but I think they're going to roll with it unless Trey and or Kyler become available. And if either do, I would not be surprised at all if the Falcons are linked early and often to both of those names.
I would keep an eye on if any of the top 4 quarterbacks start to slide in this draft. If they start to slide and like a guy like Anthony Richardson.
No, don't put that evil on me, JP. No, I can't do it.
If Stroud falls to 8,
I could do that.
They should absolutely.
You couldn't do Anthony Richardson's at 8?
No, absolutely not.
Oh my God.
I watched him. I was in the building at Tennessee, Florida. I was in the building. I've watched too much Anthony Richardson in my life. Anthony Richardson's the ultimate, like the physical traits and everything else, the 4.40, but like you have to watch him. The footwork is so bad. Like he is so raw.
It's not that he's. I agree that he's raw, but this is something like it's not a long-term project. I don't think you sit him for 2 years and then maybe he's ready. I think you could sit him for maybe like half a season and he'd be ready. The lower body mechanics, they need work. That's something that's ultimately fixable. And then you look at Anthony Richardson, watching him play, watching him in that Florida offense. That offense sucked.
Yep.
And I think the structure of the offense sucked, where everything was either 20 yards down the field or a check down with receivers who couldn't get any separation or catch the ball. You got a lot of throws downfield. You got a lot of receivers who can't catch or can't separate. You're going to get a lot of incompletions, and that'll lower the completion percentage. But watch Anthony Richardson's pocket movement, his ability to manipulate defenders while he's moving around. He is a quarterback. He doesn't look to run on first read. This isn't a Malik Willis situation.
No.
I think Anthony Richardson is far closer to being a finished product as a quarterback, where if you let him come in and use his running ability to be the floor and you develop his ceiling, you potentially have something really good there.
Well, he's also just impossible to sack. And that was the thing watching up close in UT is just his body is just so big. Like he's not super tall. He's like 6'3", but he is just so strong. Like I thought he reminded me the most of Ben Roethlisberger, where I'm like, this dude's just a tank, not like he's just always going to be impossible to bring down. He can move when he needs to, but he'll sit in the pocket and he's not going to get sacked. Like his sack rate was super low and the Florida offensive line sucked and their receivers sucked and they didn't get open and it didn't matter. Malik Willis just gets sacked all the time. Malik Willis just, he's not the same size and the same kind of player at all. Like Malik just, what was his sack rate at Liberty? Wasn't it something crazy?
It was god awful.
Yeah. Anthony Richardson never gets sacked. Like that was my takeaway watching him year over year. This past year was just that Richardson Tennessee had hands on him. Byron Young had him multiple times, and Anthony Richardson just doesn't go down. Like, no play is actually over with Anthony, but not in the way that like a Bryce Young no play is over, where he's just scrambling and he's just always going to be looking downfield, trying to find something out of the pocket, off his back foot, whatever. Anthony will just sit there in the pocket and doesn't go down. Hendon, my guy, is doing a 1-2 step drop, and then it like when Jalen Carter just absorbs him in the Georgia game, it's because he's right there. Like, Hendon will go down because he doesn't drift that far and he's not that big. I mean, they're actually the same height, weirdly enough, but just not the same size, and he would take those sacks. I kind of worry about Hendon in a bad offensive line, because I don't know if he'd be able to scramble and make something out of nothing in the same way that Richardson would.
Hendon is very much I'm going to look over to one side of the field and one side on this read, and if it's not there, then I'm going to wait until it's there.
Mm-hmm.
That waiting, you step back one step in the pocket, and you're just sitting there. You're not creating anything helpful for your offensive line. I have a lot of worries about Hendon Hooker projecting forward in the NFL, and I got a lot of Tennessee fans mad at me because I called the Tennessee offense Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I don't like that, JP. You're a friend of the pod.
When it comes to NFL evaluation, it is a Mickey Mouse offense. It's super fun as a college offense, but not a lot of stuff that they do, not a lot of quarterback play that they do can be replicated in the NFL. And that's just one of the drawbacks of that Art Briles, the Josh Heupel, the super duper spread offense where everybody's stacked out wide, way past the hash marks. You're not going to get that amount of space in the NFL. And also, everybody's just as fast. This isn't like somebody where you're going to go to Tennessee and you're going to play a team like Vanderbilt who's just not as fast as you. Everybody is Tennessee in the NFL. This is the top 1% of the 1%. So I have a lot of issues with Hendon Hooker. I think he throws a pretty deep ball. Catchable pass. I think he is a day 2 guy. I don't think he's a first round pick. I don't think he's a top 5 pick. But he's a day 2 quarterback. I think he's very similar to Jacoby Brissett. What he can do for an offense, what he can do for a team. I don't think he's going to be a long-term starter, but if you need a guy who can mop up starts and you won't have to lose too much of a beat within the offense, he can be that guy.
He's also super smart. Like, he's killed in the rims. I don't think people understand that, like, he hasn't been able to do anything with his torn ACL. So he's rising up draft boards purely because of how he's doing in these meetings and like how he's being received and his leadership qualities. And like Hendon, I'm very nervous about the Hendon to Joe Milton transition here. Like, I'm very, very nervous because they're not the same dude whatsoever. Great relationship, rooting for Joe, but like, it's different. Hendon is a different cat. Hendon was addicted to film. He's addicted to getting, like, he's a different kind of dude. He was all business. Hendon's an all business guy. Joe's a fun dude. Joe likes to do standing backflips and have fun. And I don't know. I'm still dubious that Joe makes it through.
I love Joe Milton mainly because he's going to throw the ball over the mountains, brother. And if he's not throwing the ball over the mountains, I don't know where it's going to go. But
he said he could hit 80 at the orange and white game on Saturday. He said like 80 yards is not like a big deal for Joe Milton.
That's an insane number.
Yeah.
Just I can't even comprehend throwing a ball 80 yards in the air.
Evan, have you ever seen a Joe Milton deep ball?
No, of course not.
I need you to look up on YouTube after this. Joe Milton deep ball. It's one of the most insane things. It's a flick of the wrist. It looks so easy. He had it in the Mizzou game. It went 60. They were up big, and Heupel was still just unloading the bombs on Mizzou to run it up and things like that. But no, Joe Milton has the prettiest deep ball I've seen in many, many years, and it's just effortless. Like, that's the crazy thing about Joe, is it doesn't look hard, and you don't realize how far he's throwing it on TV. But like, you count where he stepped back, and then you look at that yard line, and you're like, wait, where did that travel through the air? Was that 70 yards? Was that a 70-yard through the air bomb? And it looks like it's nothing. He did it in the Orange Bowl against Clemson to Squirrel. Yep. It was almost 60, and it just looks easy. It looks easy.
How old is he?
He's 24, I think. He's been around. He's a graduate.
Yeah, he was at Michigan first.
Yes.
Oh, he's not going to the NFL or anything like that.
I mean, no, if he has a good year, Joe Milton is so volatile where, like, I think JP, I wonder if you feel the same. Like, Joe's either going like top 5 next year, or he's like basically undrafted. Like, I don't think there's a middle ground for Joe Milton this year. Either he's a Heisman guy or he's really bad and Nico takes over and Joe's not an NFL draft prospect.
I think his athletic tools are better than Hendon's. So if he has a good year, I could see people talking into like late day 1 or day 2 because he hypothetically puts up the exact same numbers as Hendon while also throwing the ball a casual country mile.
It's like Will Levis in a way, right?
A little bit. I think Will Levis's benefit is he comes from a Shanahan McVay style offense. I was going to say if Atlanta really wants their Ryan Tannehill clone, Will Levis is that. That is exactly.
Why are you trying to hurt me tonight? Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, JP, just give me Desmond Ritter, and if Desmond Ritter doesn't work out, give me Kyler or Trey Lance. That's where I want to go.
That's exactly who Will Levis is. I think you get him in an offense that's very play action based. He can move people over the middle of the field. I think he's improved a lot in terms of reading coverages and manipulating defenders in the intermediate levels. That's something he did really well this season, but Kentucky's offense was just a massive, massive disappointment. Rich Gangarello was not great at all. The receivers weren't that good. But the problem with Will Levis is, and he's tough to a fault. He's very much, you know how in animes where the main character gets hit and goes flying back 40 yards?
Yeah.
And he just keeps getting back up and he keeps getting thrown back 40 yards. That's Will Levis.
I'm not done yet. I'm just watching. I don't know. Have you ever watched Black Clover?
Yes.
I just started it. So like it's the first thing that I thought.
Yep. He's not done yet. Will's gonna keep getting back up. I just keep thinking about the Ole Miss game where he gets his finger dislocated and then pops it right back in place and keeps going. He's a tough player. That's something that I think is gonna stick out, but he gets hit a lot. Like the Anthony Richardson, like he doesn't get sacked, he doesn't get pressured. Will Levis gets pressured and he gets sacked a lot. And that's something he's going to have to work on. I think there are still some mechanics issues where it looks like he kind of is throwing with all arm because he has a kind of wonky release. But if you want your guy who can work really well and play action, throws the ball great over the middle of the field, and he's confident in that throw. He will throw some passes that he thinks he can make. It'll get him in trouble sometimes, but I want a guy who I can say, hey, maybe you can't take that throw right now. We'll work on it, though, instead of coaching a guy up to taking that throw.
That's interesting. Evan, OBJ to the Ravens. Does that move the needle for you? Do you think that points to Lamar Jackson staying in Baltimore?
I think that it does. I think it's pretty obvious that at this point they're going to get a deal done with OBJ. It's just a matter of when, especially now that they just finished the extension for Jalen Hurts, which I don't know about you guys, but I think that just made the price more expensive. I think OBJ gets a lot of heat because of his personality. I don't think he's is OBJ of the old, but I do think that he'll be a good receiver, especially if he plays with Lamar. The Baltimore Ravens receiving group has been less than stellar for a long time, and I think that having someone like OBJ is just a good thing. And I think Lamar Jackson can make anyone good. He's done it consistently. My biggest question is just how long does it last, right? Does Lamar get hurt? Does OBJ get hurt?
Mark Andrews?
So,
J.K. Dobbins?
I got a lot of questions about the OBJ sign. The main one is, what OBJ are we expecting to get?
Right.
He's going to be going into his, age 31 year, coming off a torn ACL. We haven't seen him play in a year. We don't know what he looks like. And while he could look great, that'd be awesome. But receivers on the other side of 30 coming off a torn ACL, that doesn't trend towards being anything more than a wide receiver 2, which if you're only asking that of him, cool, you're just going to need a lot more development from Rashad Bateman. And you probably still have to go get a guy in the NFL draft. I don't think they should keep them out of drafting a receiver in the early rounds of the draft. But I have questions about it. But if he can just be a solid wide receiver 2 in that offense, it should be a win.
That's a lot of money is the only thing I will say.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but if you're gonna try and make another like big run with Lamar before Lamar was ultimately like, yeah, after this tag, I'm out of here. This might be it. So you might.
I don't think he's playing on the tag, right? Like that seems unlikely. There's no way that's how this ends. Lamar just playing on.
I think they're going to get a deal done, especially now that Jalen Hurts just finished. I do think they're going to get a deal done. I think both of them are going to get whittled down to a point where they're like OBJ. Oh, excuse me. Lamar's going to see the deal that Jalen Hurts just got, and he's like, Jalen Hurts is younger, less injuries, $170 million is what he got guaranteed. Like, he just went to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know.
Well, and then we never know what's true, right? Like the report today of just like Lamar in the longer term deal, I think is what it was. That report said on some show today about like 200 mil guaranteed was in the long term offer, but then it was less in the short term offer is what it. I think the report was. Correct me if I'm wrong, JP. Was that what it was?
Let me check just to make sure. I think it was 200 million fully guaranteed. Not fully guaranteed. It was 200 million guaranteed. I don't know if it was the long-term offer or the short-term.
I know they were different based on which one he could have potentially taken, and I mean it's a lot of money guaranteed. And the Lamar thing is so exhaustive, but I do wonder. It requires so much nuance, but it's like if he had an agent, is this just done? Like if he had someone, it was like 200 million guaranteed. That's really good. Let's just go ahead and take that one. Let's just go ahead and if that's really what the offer on the table was there, just go ahead and take that one.
I think Rappaport said if we're comparing it to Hurts got 179.3 million guaranteed. Lamar's offer was 175 million, but 200 million becomes guaranteed for skill and injury cap.
That's what it is. Okay.
26. So in 2026, it'll go up to 200 million. I think if that was the offer, I think Lamar should have taken it. If you're getting anywhere close to 200 million, I think that's a great offer, like guaranteed money wise, because especially if you're the Ravens, like this price tag is going to keep going up. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are going to get ungodly amounts of money. Trevor Lawrence might get paid in Fulham stock instead of actually like money.
Yeah, I mean,
but we say that Patrick Mahomes didn't do it. Patrick Mahomes took a really team-friendly Kansas City deal that's going to help them win multiple titles for years to come. We don't know. Some of these dudes aren't going to do it. They're going to do it in a different way.
I feel like over 10 years, and it was 450 million.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate, the numbers are going to look a lot.
I mean, I'm just wondering, could Burrow or Herbert do something similar to what Mahomes did?
I don't think they're going to ask for a long-term deal. I think Mahomes is going to be the only guy who's really gotten that long-term deal of like 10 years. I just don't see that happening anymore.
Is that not the best contract in the NFL, right? Like that's easily the best contract.
I mean, yeah, when you consider everything that you can do with Patrick Mahomes.
The fact that they've already gotten 2 Super Bowls at him.
And he's just locked in for a decade and not at a crazy number. And that number is not going to be crazy in those 10 years. Like, I think we undervalue that. Like, Brady obviously did it to an extreme, but I do wonder if one of these young franchise quarterbacks are like, hey, give me the Patrick Mahomes deal because I actually want to win titles. And also, Patrick Mahomes is going to be in the AFC for a long time.
Here's Jalen Hurts' salary cap numbers for the next 4 seasons. 6.15 million the first year, 13.56, 21.77, 31.77. Like a lot of this money is like sign-on bonus and triple option bonus structures and stuff like that. So like that's a pretty team-friendly deal too when you look at it cap-wise. Like is Lamar's like that? Is Lamar's wants it to be all guaranteed? You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
We just don't know. That's the problem. Is everyone's just firing off capital T takes without any actual insight in what the negotiations and what's actually true here. So it's like I can't really speak to it.
I will say Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. I checked Spot Track earlier today. Their estimated market value is around, I think it was 6 years, and Burrow was getting 288 million, and Herbert was getting 279. And that's the Spot Track's estimated market value. I think they're both gonna get like more than that. I think Joe Burrow could be the first like 300 mil guy, like outside of Mahomes. And you even look at Josh Allen's deal. He did not get a 10-year. He didn't sign a 10-year. I think they're going to go for more 4, 5, 6. And then everybody else under that will get 3, 4, 5, maybe.
When does Trevor's deal come up? When do you think they get that extension?
Oh, they're going to get that done probably. He's going into his 3rd year. They're going to get that done next offseason.
Okay.
After this upcoming season, they're going to get that done. And they're going to pay him in full stock. They're going to give him partial ownership of AEW. They're going to get like Disney money. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be an insane amount of money. It'll probably be the richest contract given out in Jaguars history.
Interesting. Okay. JP, the best backup landing spot for Cam is where, and how was he when we last saw actual NFL game tape from Cam?
Oh man, this is gonna make me sad. He didn't look that great the last time. Like the arm looked kind of shot, and the running ability obviously is going to stay. He's in his early 30s, coming off multiple injuries. It'd be cool to have him back in the league, but I don't know if he is a starter at this point. I think he'd be a good backup in, I think the best spot probably like Baltimore, maybe. But I just don't know, man. I don't know how much his arm has left. And it's kind of sad.
Well, I just kind of worry about the Baltimore fit with Todd Monken now. Like Greg Roman felt a lot more. That's what I also wonder. I mean, that's an underrated talking point when it comes to Lamar, is he's not running the Greg Roman style. And if you've watched Georgia the last couple of years, that Todd Monken style is going to be a little bit different than what Lamar, and I'm not saying Lamar can do it. It's just going to be very different, and maybe for the better.
I do think they ran Stetson Bennett a lot.
Yeah.
Considering Stetson Bennett is built like one of us. So you have Lamar in that. I think that offense is going to skyrocket if Lamar actually plays in that offense. Cam will be fine as a backup. You give him some more design runs. You let him throw the ball, maybe turn it into kind of a dink and dunk. I just don't know how much he has left.
Cam doesn't have anything left. Cam can barely be a backup at this point. You know what's annoying? All the things that people said about Colin Kaepernick really kind of apply to Cam. Like he is a literal like circus every time, everywhere he goes. You see the videos he just posted recently where he's like I'm back. Like, dog, you can't play football anymore. Like
the text is a little much for me. It's the text for me. I don't like the text.
Yeah, all of the above. Like he's really not good, and he's certainly not anything close to what he used to be. So, like, can he go be a backup in Philadelphia or Baltimore or wherever? Sure, I don't. But like, the experiment's over. I mean, he was a backup and he struggled, and then he was really just bad a couple games. Although he got his rushing touchdowns, which he always does. And then he didn't play and he was gone. I don't know. I'm so tired of hearing about him at this point. It seems crazy.
I just hope Cam is ultimately I hope he ends up making a team just as a backup, because I enjoy seeing Cam Newton. I enjoy seeing him on the sidelines. I enjoy seeing him be on teams. I enjoy seeing the excitement that he has playing football. It's really cool and it's really fun. I just don't know if
he can be the 4th-string quarterback in San Francisco, so that when we're all on our 4th string because every quarterback got injured, he can play. Like the rule change that they made, that could be for Cam in San Francisco.
I also, if I'm Cam, like he was at the pro day, I believe, for Auburn, right?
Yeah,
and Cam's like still probably in my 30 now. Tomorrow is my birthday, so my 32 years of life. Cam is still probably. Joe came close 3 years ago. What was it now? 3, right? With his season at LSU. But I think Cam did more with less, where Joe just had Jamar Chase and dudes everywhere. And I'm not discrediting Joe. Like Joe is unbelievable, and that LSU team was unbelievable. But that Cam year is one of the most fun, insane highlight just after highlight, where Cam, like just the Alabama game alone, what he did and impacted the game by himself was ridiculous. So selfishly, I just want Cam back at Auburn because I love that as a college football fan and what he meant to the sport. And I still would put his individual season that year up against anybody. Like, I think that 1 year of Cam at Auburn is still the most insane, fun season, dominant season of football I've ever seen from any player in my lifetime.
And I think he can offer a lot to a lot of college quarterbacks, a lot of young college quarterbacks, because Cam was kind of, I mean, after Michael Vick, Cam was the next guy come through, where he was kind of supposed to change the mold of how a quarterback was supposed to play. I mean, he came along right before RG3, and you wonder now, like, if Cam would have entered the draft in 2019 instead of 2011, what could have been? But he can offer a lot to college kids who are looking to be the next Cam Newton, which is kind of crazy that we're thinking about like the next Cam Newton, because that was in like 2010. That's kind of crazy. Drake Patrick's son is now like a 4-star college football recruit. And I think that's wild, but
that is
Cam can offer a lot to a college franchise or even an NFL franchise, just someone you want to have around the team.
I don't know if he knows Aaron Nolan personally, the 4-star quarterback who just committed to Ohio State. I watched him play at Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was just an unbelievable juggernaut out of Fairburn this past year. And they've got I talked to their coach on the pod a few months ago. Dudes everywhere, like Ohio State tight commits, like all over the place, like just all D1s, like just D1 dudes everywhere. But that was one of the most dominant. He's fun. Like, he's fast. He's not even close to the same build as Cam. Aaron Nolan, though, is such a Heisman quarterback name, and such a just, you watch him in the way, he's going to be a star. I don't know if he's going to be the next Atlanta quarterback superstar type, but Aaron Nolan is a name to watch over the next couple of years.
Elite name.
Yeah. Aaron Nolan. Like, elite name. When I first saw that and just watching him play too, he's fun. Just won a state title this past year at Langston Hughes. See if they go back to back, but they were blowing people out. JP, if you want to watch some crazy high school tape, watch some Langston Hughes with Aaron Nolan last year. It was pretty ridiculous. That offense was unbelievable. Evan, Irsay wants the Colts to draft a quarterback at number 4, reportedly. Evan, should Colts fans be worried about owner interference to reach on a quarterback here? Like, how concerned? Like, is he going to just spill the beans on the pick on Twitter before it comes out? What I'm concerned about Colts fans' sanity here at this point, because they have not been able to replace Andrew Luck at all, and they're finally moving away from the veteran, just stopgap veteran option and really leaning in. But they're in a terrible spot in this draft to do so. If you're a Colts fan, are you nervous going into the draft? And do you want them to just take the 4th quarterback available right now, which is where they might end up being if someone jumps over them and they're whoever's left, good luck.
I mean, it really just comes down to who's available, right? If Anthony Richardson is available at 4, although I know you don't like that idea, I like the idea of giving someone with a lot of traits. You know, like, I like the idea of the Niners taking Trey Lance, and I still do. So it just depends on who's there. And also, it kind of depends on, like, how much they think the Colts can compete this year. If the Colts have a decent quarterback, a young rookie quarterback, can they compete in the playoffs? Do they have the roster for that? If you think so, I get it. But, like, as long as you're not trading, that's where I think the hindrance for me kind of becomes. I still don't think this is a strong quarterback class. I don't like shorter quarterbacks. I don't care what anyone says. If that's mean, I'll never like the shorter quarterback, just from a numbers standpoint.
You're going to love the Brock Purdy situation here over the next couple of years, Evan. You're going to love it.
It's kicking my butt. I'm hoping for Trey Lance every single day.
How tall is Trey Lance? Is he 6'2", 6'3"? What is he?
No, she's like 6'4".
6'4".
Is Trey Lance really 6'4"? He doesn't look 6'4".
He's huge. What are you talking about?
He doesn't look that much taller than Purdy. Maybe just because we haven't seen him enough.
Have you seen him next to Jimmy Garoppolo?
All right, I'm looking at him next to Purdy now. He's a much bigger human than Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Now, the most recent photo with him, Mahomes, and Dante Moore, as someone who had to come home with the hairline, I don't know what Trey's doing there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, time to come on home.
Yeah, it's that
hairline is potentially the worst hairline I've seen in the NFL.
It
could be. Yeah, he's got like some he's got like Mr. Jefferson things going on. In a bad way, a worse Mr. Jefferson. Like,
how is Robbie Gould not pulled him aside? Like, hey, Trey, this is not working, my man.
Well, there's some great procedures nowadays. You can pay $10,000 and have a hair.
Here's the problem with that: is someone losing their hair, you have to keep coming back. It's not like you do a fix and then it's done. You have to fix it momentarily, and then you have to keep doing it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same as like getting veneers for your teeth. You have to come back every 7 years or so. Whatever,
I think it's a little bit more dangerous to do the whole surgery on your scalp over and over again.
Listen, man, all I'm saying, if you like your hair, you're rich. Go get it.
I like my hair, and even if I was rich, I don't think I'd do it. I don't think I could sign on.
I don't know about that, man.
I'm not a surgery guy. If I can avoid surgery, I'm just going to avoid surgery. If there was like a,
I have heard though. I don't know if you guys heard this. It's very topical. But
was that a pun?
No, yeah. But apparently, like a lot of people are going to Turkey to get the hair procedures done because the cost to fly to Turkey and get room and board is cheaper than getting it here, and they do a good job. So apparently, like you'll go on a flight to Turkey, and like the flights back from the States. From Turkey, you'll just have a bunch of guys with like bandages on their head. Like it's like an entire flight full of bandages, like all over your head, like bleeding and stuff. I know a guy, I will say this. I know a guy that did it, and it's not for football players. It's like 6 months of like constantly having like open wounds on your head, and you gotta be careful. So yeah, I don't know if that Trey has that kind of time in his off season. Maybe that's why, but if that's the case,
like Brian Urlacher got it done when he was done with football. He became the spokesman after he retired. Like Brian Urlacher did it later on. I don't think you can do it while you're playing.
It's just time for Trey to come on home. It's okay. Yeah. You got to come on home. It looks like he went to go get a haircut, then forgot that he had a training session. Like midway through, he got left. Yeah.
Well, and like it's like you're also to put it bluntly. You're an African-American athletic quarterback. Is ever in the history of quarterbacks, you have so much room for swag, headbands. Like there's a bunch of different types of like, you can like wear caps. Like there's things that you can wear that, put it bluntly, like I remember when like, Zach Wilson, remember his headband?
I have the headband. I work out in that every day. The Ninja headband is fantastic.
I think Trey wears the Ninja headband.
Does he?
That's what I'm saying. Like Zach Wilson.
I feel like he does. Now that you said that, I remember it at North Dakota State. I think he had the yellow one. I feel like I remember seeing a yellow headband for him.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you have options when you're playing football. So just shave your head, wear the cool headbands. I mean, I've got a bunch of Avengers headbands that I wear just because I like them.
Your headbands are huge, though. You have these. I've seen your workout videos. I don't know if you've seen them, JP, but Evan's got like the gigantic, like it takes up half his head. Like you have a gigantic headband.
They're the same ones that Trey Lance wears.
No, they're thin. We're talking about the thin ones. The Ninja ones are thin. Think Power Rangers Power Rangers Ninja, where it was just like wrapped around their head like that. And it's like super. It's just barely above the
dog.
I see them vary.
No.
I think like
I'm looking at him wearing a junk headband right now that I quite literally own.
I think the Nike ones and sort of the specialty ones, I think Evan has, like they're the Ninja headbands. They're pretty big.
They're by
you see the difference though, JP, right? Like aren't they bigger like at the top? Like they are just thicker, I think.
You're losing your mind. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, just Google Trey Lance headbands and you will see. I own the 49ers one that he wears. His is just a little more scrunched up, and I don't do that because, I don't know, maybe I got a big head.
Maybe we just do the pod next week. All of us wear our different variations, and we can do a live test of what the different sizes and if we're crazy in terms of headband size. Because mine is in the other room, I think, but I want to wear this. Oh, Evan's going to get it. He's putting it on, JP. This is why, folks. Look at this. That's covering up your entire forehead.
Right, but look,
that's a whole forehead.
First off, the way that Trey Lance wears it, if I were to wear it like that, you're gonna see like some Super Mario.
Yeah,
right?
My hairline and you're gonna have like
right.
Even
he's wearing the same headband. I'm just pulling it all the way up.
No, that's huge. That is a huge.
The same. Google it.
It's covering more surface area. That's why it's bigger because you're covering more surface area. Trey just has his scrunched up.
I don't know, but what I'm saying is like Zach had it. It's thin. I have it. Like it only covers like half my forehead.
Well, the Zach one that you have is a Nike one, and
it's the Jumpman logo one.
He makes theirs very sleek, very like they want to make theirs look cool. And
but yeah, this if you Google right now, literally just Google Trey Lance headbands. He also has so much more hair than me, so it doesn't look. You know what I mean? Like
that's
all of his
hard to do the hair replacement stuff because he has so much hair already. You got to try not only like the same color, same texture. You got to get it to the same length to make it look like you didn't have hair surgery. That's why he's just come on home or like
it's time.
Cut.
Let me tell you, folks. Among the three, and for the men who are not balding yet, who might bald in the foreseeable future. Here are the stages of dealing with hair. The best is obviously you have your full head of hair. Like it's great. It's a great world. The second best stage is accepting that you're losing your hair and to come on home and to just buzz it off, move on from your life, say you're not winning this battle. Number 3 was the worst, and it's the worst by far. And it's the fight that Trey Lance is going through where it's like the denial stage where you're like, I'm not doing it. I'm not ready. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to fight this losing genetic battle. That is not a happy place to be because everyone around you knows. Everyone around you knows what's happening here. They all want you to, they will notice it. I had a bald spot in the back of my head. I'll never forget. I had my moment when I worked at a nonprofit back in Atlanta. I had a kid because there were kids at the nonprofit. And one of the kids saw the back of my head one day. And kids can't lie. Kids are just amazingly brutally honest. And he asked our one of the teachers, why does Chase have a hole in the back of his head?
Oh, that's tough.
That was it.
That's tough.
Like he was legitimately curious. He's like, why does he have a hole in the back of his head? That was his question.
Did you tell him because your DNA is and your bloodline is weak?
No, he was like 7, so I didn't really want to get into the logistics of male pattern baldness. But it was pretty brutal. Like that was one of those where that was it. I'm not kidding. Like that was it. Where I'm like, oh, this is done. This is happening. That kid is great, but
That's
you need
tough.
those kind of moments in your life.
Look, man, A'Shawn Robinson, Leonard Fournette, they've been bald since they were like 16 years old.
Oh yeah, A'Shawn Robinson didn't. I think he came out of the
45-year-old man as like a 15-year-old, and that was terrifying.
Who was the one? Was it Brashad Perriman who came in the league where it's like he had really long hair, but he didn't have anything in the front, so it looked like a mullet almost.
Hairline was like right here.
Yes.
So it just didn't look great.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. Well, that concludes the hair loss segment portion of this very program.
It's important. It's an important segment.
It is an important segment. JP Palmer, Carson Palmer, that is, says Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes. I ask you, to be fair, what do you know for certain Burrow is, as of this recording, better at than Patrick Mahomes? To give Carson Palmer the benefit of the doubt, what is Joe Burrow better at as a quarterback in the National Football League right now than Patrick Mahomes?
Losing Super Bowls?
Not a single thing.
Not one.
You can make the argument that he's better in terms of pocket manipulation and moving around the pocket, but Patrick Mahomes is probably just as good at that. I think he's just as accurate. He has a stronger arm. He has more of an ability to throw off platform. He's better within the system of an offense. Look, we're going to keep doing this in the offseason. We keep doing this every year. It's Patrick Mahomes right here. Then there's a gap. It's Patrick Mahomes and everybody else. Everybody else is fighting for tier 2 position right now. But you're not going to get into Patrick Mahomes level unless you are just consistently so good within the structure of an offense, outside the structure of an offense. I mean, the way Mahomes has developed from being a feast or famine, big play quarterback to basically one of the most efficient quarterbacks we've ever seen play the game. Like the Super Bowl, he didn't throw for over 200 yards, but it was the most efficient 189 we've ever seen.
And he did it on one leg.
On one leg. He was being dragged down by Jordan Davis and completed the pass to Travis Kelce for a first down. You're not going to see that in the NFL. You're not going to find that. So, I mean, maybe you can make the pocket manipulation. Maybe you can say that for Joe Burrow, but really the only thing that Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes at is looking cooler on Instagram. That's really it right now.
I mean, listen, Patrick Mahomes has done so much more in such little time than every other quarterback. Like it's impossible to put anyone near him. And the fact is that he's probably going to keep winning Super Bowls. He's probably not done. He just lost Tyreek Hill and got better. You know what I mean? It's like Gohan with the Z sword. You know, he shed the golden hair and got stronger. He's like, I don't need this. Patrick Mahomes terrifies me. And I feel like as a team that's gone to the Super Bowl twice in the last couple of years, it's terrifying being a fan of a different team in the NFL right now because it feels like Tom Brady again. Like, how many Reggie Millers are there going to be in the NFL these next couple of years? You know how many Pacers teams, right? The Blazers.
I think the Bills fit the mold here right now. I think
Right?
This is the ultimate Buffalo Bills situation.
Yeah, like the Bills are probably terrified of having it all happen again.
I think they're kind of screwed. I don't know what their path is. I think the Bills are kind of in a really, really tough spot.
I think the only way you beat the Patrick Mahomes situation is with a defense. I think the Niners would have had a better chance to play. I think
that's why Cincy's their biggest challenge, right? Is they keep all their people somehow. Like Cincinnati, the staff continuity is an underrated part of what's going on here because Zach Taylor and his group, like Lou interviewed a lot of different jobs. It seemed like he was probably going to get the Arizona job, and he's been one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL the last couple of years, and he's still there. And you just look at it, and you're like, they're able to keep a lot of their guys, offensive line coach, quarterback. Like T is locked in, Jamar Chase is locked in. You look at it, and you're like, I think they're best positioned to challenge the Chiefs, and they've also beaten them. Arrowhead at home, like they are the air, and I think that's why the Burrow versus Mahomes conversation comes up. But like you, JP, like it's just that's still tier 2. It's just he's the best. I mean, for me, I would say he's the best tier 2 AFC quarterback right now.
I would say Joe Burrow is probably the second best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
but the gap between 1 and 2 is large because we're just not going to see another Patrick Mahomes again. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah. Evan, Buda Baker wants a trade. We talked about that at the top of the program, but if they do it, Buda Baker getting moved and they move D-Hop, what's the point of keeping Kyler Murray around with a new administration and a new coaching staff? What is the point for keeping him around this year?
I'm sure the new administration is furious that they gave him the contract extension. Kyler Murray should have got shopped. I would imagine with these new batch of contract extensions for quarterbacks coming out, Kyler's will look not as scary. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him. I mean, there's so many things. One, I think the Arizona Cardinals head coach is going to get fired immediately, right? I
don't think it's wild to see, like, JB, I guess you could speak more to this, right? With Jonathan Gannon, where he was just kind of a fan or an analyst favorite for most of last year. And then the Super Bowl happened. And then it was like, oh, he got completely exposed. They collapsed. They didn't get any pressure. His scheme is actually not that good. Like, I just feel like Jonathan Gannon lost so much goodwill from one game.
I have my questions about Jonathan Gannon and his defense in terms of they are very much we're not going to bring pressure to you. We're not going to force the issue. We're just going to, so with defense, there are two philosophies: attack, react, or react, attack. Jonathan Gannon is much more of a react, attack, We're going to see what you do first, and then we'll go do it. Whereas, I guess a good comparison is Brian Flores, attack, react. We're going to force the issue and force you to react first. That's the biggest issue when it comes to Jonathan Gannon. He is a react attack coordinator who never wants to get out of that. He never wants to escape the react attack area. That's where he feels most comfortable. I'm just very concerned with the staff that he's building. It's a lot of first-year guys and a lot of guys from college. Not just college. He hired a lot of guys from what? Oh, my gosh. Where did he get them from? He hired a lot of them from Florida. And that, hey, man, good luck. But with Kyler Murray, it's very interesting because I think if the Cardinals are going to stink this year, like we think they are, Kyler's probably going to get shopped in the offseason. He's probably only going to play 8-10 games. He might not play a full season. He'll be fully healthy when it comes around time to get traded. He'll go somewhere where a team can use his talents, and then the Cardinals are right in place to draft a quarterback. I think the way it's setting up now, they're in the process of rebuilding. But where Arizona is in terms of team building, their personnel, they are so bad personnel-wise and so thin depth-wise. Their defense is all corners and safeties, and you can't really build a defense with only corners and safeties. And their offensive line is not great right now. And their receivers outside of DeAndre Hopkins are all 5'10" or below. So you're kind of – look, man, I had my doubts about Cliff Kingsbury. I thought Cliff Kingsbury was going to suck. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And Steve Keim, a.k.a. White Suge Knight, did not help him out at all. But this team is going to be rebuilding at the end of this season. Are they already starting that?
Evan, if you had to guess which of the two, because it seems like the Seahawks are set. I think the Seahawks are going to be good for a while. Seahawks are out of the rebuild. It's going to be the Seahawks and the Niners fighting over the NFC North for the next couple, or NFC West for the next couple of years. If you had to guess, though, who's more likely to be in the gutter the next couple of years between the Cardinals and Rams?
Cardinals.
Okay.
Just because Sean McVay is a really good coach. Even if their team is tough, I still think Sean McVay is a good coach. The Cardinals are in a bad place. And they're losing the only talent that they have, but Hopkins was never I never liked that trade in the first place. I don't know. Yeah, the Cardinals are trash.
It seemed like nobody wanted either jobs, right? Nobody wanted the GM job. Nobody really wanted the head coaching job. I feel like both were very strenuous for Arizona to fill both spots. That's never a good sign.
I think the Cardinals wanted Shane Steichen. They wanted Shane Steichen or they wanted Sean Payton. Yeah. Sean Payton was not going to take that Cardinals job. He looked at that roster and was like, yeah, man, absolutely not.
But you know what's funny? I picked Sean Payton to Arizona because I thought he would get control. Where Arizona's been going through hell. I thought he would actually get full the Bill Belichick treatment.
He got control.
But at the same time, Sean Payton's in his 60s now, mid 50s or late 50s.
He can't be 60s. He's probably in his 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not rebuilding anytime soon. He wants to go to a team that already has
he's 59. He turned 60 this year. Good call. I didn't realize he was that old.
He's probably he wants to win now.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are not going to win right now. That defense is really bad and will be very bad for a good minute.
But I mean, who would you rather put your faith in over the next 2 to 3 years? Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson?
Do I have to pick? I mean, if I had to choose over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm going to say Kyler just off of the development path, and he's a lot younger. But I really don't want to choose. I don't want to choose between those two. I am somewhere along the lines of Evan where I am anti-short quarterback. Because you need to be able to see the middle of the field. But I don't know, man. The Cardinals are in a very, very rough spot. It'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason and going into next offseason.
Last thing here as we wrap up. Jimmy, would it be a mistake for the Titans to take a quarterback in the first round this year?
No, absolutely not. Because look, man, Josh Dobbs isn't good.
What is this? Just pile on Tennessee quarterback hour? What's going on here, JP?
Okay, this is not me talking as Josh Dobbs, Tennessee Volunteer. This is Josh Dobbs, Tennessee Titan, Jaguar fan.
Almost playoff quarterback Josh Dobbs.
Well, I mean, broken clock twice a day. You know. But Malik Willis seemed much more like a John Robinson, the GM. It seemed like him pick more than Mike Vrabel. I think that he wanted to start a rebuild more quickly than Mike Vrabel wanted to, which is ultimately why he got canned. But now that Mike Vrabel's in control, he can do basically whatever he wants at this point. And with Rand Carthen, I think now as the GM, I think they're in very good position to draft a quarterback. I think if any of the top 4 guys, I would love Will Levis there because he just perfectly fits what they need, what they like in the offense. I think they need to draft a quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is going to be going into 36, 37 years old. He can probably get shipped in the offseason. You can draft a guy and then say, hey, Ryan, this is going to be this guy's team now, and basically just go forth and see what happens. But I think they're in good position to draft a quarterback if one of those guys falls to them. That's the biggest thing. I don't think one of those guys is going to fall to them.
Evan, fanfic. Would you do Derrick Henry for Trey Lance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God. That offense, you wouldn't even need to run a quarterback. Christian McCaffrey can throw the ball.
Would that not be the most fun thing to watch? Like, they're already the most physical offense in the NFL.
Yeah,
if you bring in Derrick Henry with CMC and Debo, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just going to be pain all the time. It's just going to be nothing but pain.
I'm really excited for Trey Lance. I still think there's hope, but I would, of course, take that.
I think with Trey Lance, I think what they're doing is being like, hey, we have to say Brock Purdy's going to be the starter going into this season because of what he did last year. But by keeping an open competition, they're basically saying, hey, if Trey's as talented as you think he is, he should win this job. And I think he's going to. I really do want to see what the later version of the Shanahan offense looks like with Trey Lance at quarterback. I don't think we've gotten to see what a quarterback with elite tools like Trey Lance has in that offense. And I think we start to see a little bit of what they wanted to be with Trey at quarterback in terms of the run game. But, you know, I want to see Trey Lance in the offense with McCaffrey. That's something we haven't seen yet. I think a lot of people are comparing like, oh, Trey played poorly in the first games he was a starter. One of the games was a monsoon, and then the other game he broke his ankle. So
you're speaking Evan's language right here.
What are we grading? What are we judging him on right here? So I think Trey's going to ultimately win the job. And it'll be cool to have Brock Purdy as a backup because now you can know the backup can actually play and work the offense. But
the way it was supposed to be in the first place.
Yeah, by keeping it an open competition, Trey should win that job. It looks better optics-wise because you're giving the kid Purdy just a chance to compete. But if Trey's a better quarterback, he's going to win the job. There should not be a problem with that.
I'm going to roll with Trey for Kirk as the final into the whole situation here. Trey in Minnesota and Kirk. I think that's how it ends.
Shanahan.
Yeah, I think that's how it ends.
I do think the Vikings are going to take a quarterback in this draft.
And if they don't want to reach, they're going to call about Trey. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Evan, find you on Twitter at Evan Sowards. JP, we can find you at JP_Acosta32. Is that it?
Acosta32.
Acosta.
JP.
There you go. Anything you would like to plug on the writing front this week on SBNation.com?
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow, I have a really, really pretty cool story coming out. I did a feature profile on Anthony Richardson covering his ability or his time going from being the prince that was promised in Gainesville, Florida, where I'm from, to potentially being a top pick in the draft and kind of where all the ups and downs in between. So I got that coming out.
I didn't know you were from Gainesville.
Yep. Gainesville, Florida, born and raised. I lived there for the first 13 years of my life.
Okay.
Somehow I ended up a Florida State fan. I blamed that on my dad. But
Are you still a Florida State fan, or going to FAU did that kind of change it, or are you just both?
It's majority FAU,
okay,
but FSU is still there.
Okay. A Gainesville original who's a Florida State fan. That's
interesting.
interesting.
Oh yeah, Thanksgivings get hectic, but yeah, got that coming out tomorrow. Got some draft stuff coming up, and then I have some pretty cool ideas for when we get to the dog days of the NFL offseason, college football offseason, where nothing's going on, where I'm just gonna do some fun stuff, and you gotta follow, see what happens.
There you go. Do that. Evan, JP, thank you as always, and I will talk to y'all next week.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.